This webinar I just called Reporting in Axosoft, and charts and graphs that tell managers just how awesome you are. So the idea with Axosoft is that we try to make it as easy to use for your developers just so you can go and continue to get work done. Now, a lot of times the project managers and other ones want to know exactly how much work you've got done and how fast you're working. So, we do also have a lot of ways just for them to extract that data from Axosoft so that the Bill Lumbergs of the world will actually be happy with you. I couldn't use the actual still from Office Space because that is, of course, copyrighted material. This, however, is I Googled images with the Creative Commons license, and that's one of Phil code that we actually could use without getting in trouble. So I want to talk about one of the best ways to actually get all the information from Axosoft, because sometimes it's not actually just printing out a report. But just there are so many ways that we can actually manipulate the view to either change what we do get in reports if we do want to report or export data, or just view the information the way that we want within the Axosoft application. So I'm going to pop over to, I don't need this window anymore. So I'm going to pop over just to my Axosoft window, and what I mean by view is just this section right here, where I can actually go ahead and customize what columns are there, the way information is sorted and grouped and actually filtered. And this a lot of times just can get you really all the information kind of that you want. So one common thing that we usually like to have is just to see how all of the work is broken down by user. So if I want to look at everything that's in this current sprint and see how it's broken down by user, I can go ahead and just right click on any of the column headers, assuming that it's something that you can group by, like an assigned to or a date or status or workflow step. Just right click and then go ahead and select group by, and now we go ahead and are actually grouping the information. So just by changing the view here, we've got a lot of good information, and it always gives you just the total number of items, number of hours worked, and number of hours remaining, along with the percent complete. So just by manipulating the view, we can really get a lot of good information as to what's actually going on with this particular sprint, or really any subsection of data. So you can always just go and add and remove any columns from the view. So really just anything that's like a custom text field or any of the built-in fields. If you just click on the gear icon in the upper right, you can just go ahead and add and remove any fields there. So a couple cool things about this is that you can also add any custom fields that you have, any customer custom fields, and anything that's actually along with the customer contact as well. So you can view all that information along with the item. And I actually, just for purposes of this example, I created two custom fields, one called cost, and then one called quantity. So let me just go ahead and add both of those. So these are just standard, number fields that I have, and they're pretty standard ones. Like if you're just not necessarily doing software development, but you're actually processing orders for people, and they have to have a cost and quantity associated with them. So you can add any columns to the grid. You can drag and drop the order that you want. You can go ahead and remove any of these columns just by right-clicking and just saying show column. But really the idea is you can add and remove anything just using the gear icon in the upper right. Okay, so this of course is very helpful to view within the application. But now if we want to actually go and print this out and have kind of like a report that we can go and save, if you click on the printer icon up at the top, it's going to launch a printer-friendly view of all the information. So right here, I can go and just print this out. So a couple great things about this is that it keeps the columns exactly as I had them posted previously. So if I want to rearrange anything, I can do that right here. And it'll also just go ahead and tell me what filters I had I was applying. So it was just the current release that I had selected, and just what information it's grouping or sorted by. Right. So that's one easy way just to kind of go and print that out. You can also, of course, print to a PDF and save it if you have that information. And the cool thing about that is that we can do this right from the list view, as well as the card view. So if you guys work in the card view as well, let me just go ahead and nix the grouping. All right. So if you actually work in the card view, you can just go ahead and print this out as well. We even have people that like to have all of their cards just printed out as sticky notes or as actual cards. So they'll print these out, cut these out so they can have them in paper and then play with them and kind of organize them in the real world. That's definitely something that is your prerogative, and we make it very easy just by using the printer-friendly view. However, if you want to just go ahead and prioritize things and kind of move them around just within the application, it's very easy to do that just using drag and drop as well. Okay, so those are two of the most simple ways that we would actually be printing the information from the view. So like I mentioned, we do have the ability to modify the views quite a bit, but what we can also do is actually save any of our views so that we all make sure that we are always looking at the same data. So for instance, let's go back to the list view. Let's go ahead and break it down by the assigned to. We'll group by this. If you want to have anything sorting, or if you want to just view only high priority items, what you can do is that you can actually configure your view exactly the way that you want, and then maybe you're running a monthly report where you want to go and look at this same subset of data. So what you can actually do is then just go ahead and just go to Views, Save Views, and I'll call this like my monthly report. And then if you want the same filters or anything, you can go ahead and select those as well. I usually just kind of deselect a lot of these options for filters and quick filters, and just use the color coding, grouping, and the column settings that we have here. So this way, if you're just working like in your regular view in Axosoft, and then you're saying, oh, hey, I want to go and print out that view for my report for this month, or go ahead and shoot it over to my managers. Really, all I can do is just go to Views, say that one that I have for my monthly report, and now go and print that out, and it has everything right there for me. So just being able to save that view is really helpful when you do want to actually go and generate those reports. Okay, so a couple other things that we have is, like I mentioned, we want ways for you to go ahead and save trees. So you're not always printing out reports. You can, of course, print a PDF and save those as an electronic record. But a lot of the ways that we have it working in Axosoft is just so you can get all of the information right from the application that you need. We've talked briefly about how we can just get item information. And then one piece that I skipped was actually getting work log data. Sorry, I missed that first here. Because that's something which is also just very, very common for you and your users, just to view how long each of your users has actually worked on information. And you can also very easily print out this data for your customers and get it out. So if you don't already have this work logs tab here, it might be hidden from your view. You can just click on this filter icon in the upper right and see all of the available tabs we have. And one of them is the work logs tab. And that just shows you exactly that, what work logs all of your users have entered. So a couple of the great things about this is that you can also add any customer information here. So if you're doing work for specific customers, I think these ones were not done for customers as well, but say that you do contract work for various different customers, and then you have to build them eventually. What you can do is actually, for any items that are assigned to specific customers, when you do add work logs there, it'll know that this work has been done for this item, which is associated with this company, and then you can just easily go and print or export those as well. You can just go and there is a printer-friendly view for processing work logs as well, and they can be exported directly to a CSV. That's something that you'd be working with as well. All right. So just by manipulating what we can see in the application is really, really helpful, not only for printing it out and just getting the information that we see, but also for the next thing, which is when we're actually exporting the data directly from the Axosoft account. And this is the actual raw data that we have, and it spits it out into a CSV file. So it's a file that's very easily just imported into Excel or Numbers or just any applications that you have. And then you can work with numbers there as well. However, there are a couple of really cool things that we have built into the application to really facilitate when you are exporting data. The first is whenever you export data, just like in the print preview, it's going to remember all of the columns that you have here and the order that they've been listed. So now when we actually do go and export data, you can easily export data really from any of the tabs just by clicking on More and then Export. And you're going to see that it's going to include all of the columns that we have here listed as they are, as the columns are entered in your view. You can also add any additional columns here. So if you want to actually include the description, you can really go and add any fields as well as customer and customer contact fields or custom field data. And now when you go and actually export the data, it's going to go and kick off a CSV file. You see I just clicked it there and brought it right up in Numbers here. And we can just see all of the information. So here I've got my two custom fields, cost and quantity, exactly as they were laid out in my view. And we also do have that description field, which I kind of checked on at the end. So one thing about exporting data is that if you are exporting data from a large text field, where we typically have just like HTML values, it's going to export all of the HTML there as well, just because it assumes like, well, you might be integrating with another application, or you want that rich formatting of all of your links and tables. So it will export the HTML with it as well. If, however, you don't want that, you're going to go ahead and see this option right up at the top for including HTML in the exported data. If you uncheck that, now when you actually go ahead and export, oh, sorry, I did it, but I didn't actually check. I exported it, but I didn't tell it to export the description. So with include HTML unchecked, now when I go ahead and look at my CSV, we can see it's just removed all those div tags, links, line breaks, and everything there, just so it's the plain text. Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about using things in Excel, because like once you already have that, there's tons of ways to manipulate the data. But you can see that just being able to quickly export this data in the way that you want it really makes it easy if you ever want to go and add any calculations. You can just say, okay, insert a new row. And then, oops, actually, let's delete that option. Oh, sorry, I could have sworn I put my Skype on cancel. All right, you can actually just go ahead and insert a column, and of course, just do any type of totals you would want. And Excel, of course, makes it very, very easy. And then you can just go ahead and build any other information. All right, so we had one question. Is there any way to suppress the internal IDs of the fields? And currently there is not. It'll just give you the key values. And this can actually be very helpful if you are building stuff with the API, if you want to just see the underlying field values. So if you don't want that information, you can export any of the system values and then just go ahead and clean that out, either manually or using macros. Okay, so a couple of other things with exporting data. Exporting data actually isn't available from the All Items tab. So if you work in there a lot, and if you're wondering, hey, where's my export? Because it's not there. That's currently not supported because we've got different tables in the database and different fields. So we've got things for, user stories might have other information than new bugs. So if you do need to export that data, you would just need to export each of the item types individually And then if you want to, you can kind of join those tables together if you do want everything in one CSV file. You would just need to do the actual export process manually for each item type. All right, great. So let me go ahead and move on. A couple other things about this. Again, like if you are using macros where you're doing a lot of calculations built off of that CSV field, then it also really helps just to have your view saved because if you're working typically in Axosoft and you want to have information slightly different, because when we do export, it exports exactly the columns as they're listed here. If you revert back to that saved view, now whenever you do run that export, it'll go ahead and have all the information, all the columns in your spreadsheet listed the same way. So then you don't need to adjust your macros. It kind of knows exactly where everything should be. Great. So exporting data is probably one of the most versatile ones because you can just really manipulate the data in any ways that you want. And I'll also build additional graphs, but I want to take a short time right now just to talk about some of the other dashboards that we have, just so you don't, if the data is accessible right there within Axosoft, you may not even need to export it to another application and then create the chart that you would need. So a couple quick things about the dashboards are that it really goes and it just shows mostly burn down data and metrics, but really one of the most flexible charts we have is the item chart, which is very, very flexible. So under the dashboard right here, sorry, I think having it on a different screen pulled it up a little bit because I'm in presentation view. So basically, like I mentioned, a lot of the options that we have in the dashboard are just different aspects of the burn down chart, mostly just the burn down chart itself, required velocity, current velocity, projected ship date, and work remaining. All of these are actually just ways that you can go and look at different aspects of the chart, whether or not you're expected to finish on time or late. But I can go ahead and just create a new dashboard. And some of the neat things that we have about this is the item chart, because you can really just include any other information you want. So if you want to just show bugs by, or I'll just say items by assigned to. Okay. You can just say, okay, I want to group data by who it's assigned to. How do I want to aggregate that data? Do I want the number of items, or if I want to just see how much time there is remaining? And then if you want to filter any further just from releases, maybe I want to filter just my my current sprint. Then if you want to add any additional columns there, for this one I like to have a pie chart, and you can just quickly add all that data there. So it really is very easy just for you to go and spit out simple item count charts, as well as anything that has to do with kind of user workload. So or actually time remaining, but actually kind of like user workload and other information is very helpful when you're looking at other subsets of data. So if you want to just change how you're grouping information, and just say, okay, I want to see how much time I'm spending on items based on their priority. It's very flexible there as well. A couple other really cool things about the dashboard, which we just recently added, I believe in it's either 14.5 or 14.6, is that you can now share this with your execs, share it with the Bill Lumbergs of the world very, very easily, and they don't even need an account. So really, the way that you can do that is if you do want to show this dashboard or the other one with your customers, customers or stakeholders, just click on the gear icon in the upper right, and under the settings, you can say, all right, I want to go ahead and create a public URL. So right now it's yelling at me. It's just saying, hey, I don't have the API enabled. And the API is just a way that you can, have different integrations connect to your Axosoft account. So, really you need this in order to integrate with any of our great add-ons and other third-party tools that we have. So if you haven't seen those out, you can definitely check them out at axosoft.com/add-ons just to see other things that you might want. But once we've added that API access, it's just saying, okay, I can allow external applications to not connect. Now when I go to dashboard settings, it'll allow me to go ahead and take a look at the dashboard URL. And I can just copy this and send it to whomever. And now they don't even need to actually have an account. They don't need to log in. So that way, if you've got an executive or manager who doesn't really work in Axosoft but wants to check in, every month or so or every couple of weeks and just see what's going on, this is a way that you can just have them keep an eye and give them information at a high level as to really what all of your teams are doing. All right, so not having an account is great. Just for your user count, you don't need to actually create users. Whereas I believe with 14.4 and previous, in order to really get any of that information, you actually had to pay for them just to check that information just once every couple months. All right, and then lastly, probably one of the most flexible options that we have are working with the built-in reports that we have, because we can actually customize these as well. And this is where a lot of the more kind of technical part of working with reports comes in. So I want to talk just kind of briefly about some of the built-in reports that we have, how to use them, and how we can actually modify them as well. So what I mean by the built-in reports are the ones where if you actually just are working within Axosoft, and then if you go up to the Tools menu and click on Reporting, you'll see all of these reports that we kind of have built in. And some of them are specific for the different item types. So if you want to see just kind of like a list of items, or if you actually want to get the details, the details really just prints out everything about the item. So any of your fields, custom fields that would be there. Like I mentioned, these quantity and cost. These are custom fields that I went ahead and I actually just built those directly in. And I didn't need to adjust this report at all. It just automatically includes those fields. So let's close out of that. Okay. So something else that we, one of the other common ones that we do have is also the list report. And you'll notice that we do have like features list, the defect list, incident list. It's common for all the different item types as well. And if I just go ahead and pull this off, I can see another view that we have. All right. So one of the main differences between this printout and actually the ones that we have, which are kind of like the print-friendly view, is that the columns here are not actually the same as I have set up. So the columns here are actually hard-coded. So if we want to go and rearrange any of the columns, we would need to do so just in the option here. Okay, so if we do want to actually change the way that the information is displayed, like the different columns, we would need to actually go and modify the report. However, the great thing is that this is very flexible because it does a couple things that the printer-friendly view does as well, which is any of your grouping will be included in the report. So if I wanted to group by priority and now run my report, it will keep that grouping that we have. It'll also go ahead and keep all of your filters there. So it makes it kind of very simple just to go and make sure that you're all viewing really the exact same information here then whenever you go and print out the report, because all of the items that we see here will be included in the report. Okay, so the reports that we have are very kind of basic, but they're very kind of easy just to customize a little bit and swap out fields, and I want to kind of show you how we can do that, as well as add a little bit of personality to the reports. So something that we have available to you is the Axosoft Reports Designer. And that is actually just a standalone application which allows you to connect to your database. So if you're a hosted customer, or actually even if you're locally installed, you would actually need the Reports Designer to go and modify these reports and make any changes. You can actually find it if you just go to axosoft.com. And then if you click on our support and then downloads page, you can grab actually right here your reports designer. We've got some other really good information just here, a couple walkthrough videos and our full documentation available, and where you can actually go and download the actual applications itself. So like I mentioned, what you can do is that you can connect directly to the database to build and customize the reports, either if you do host Axosoft on your local network, or actually if we host it for you as well. So if we do host it for you, you would need a couple pieces of additional information. And this just says, hey, you would need to have the remote server enabled manually for us, and just we would need to send you the information to connect. So if that's the case, just go ahead and email us at support, and we'll go ahead and give you the information that you need. Really, it's just 2 pieces. Okay, I've already got the reports designer installed. It's a very simple installer itself. But like the 2 pieces that you would need that we would send you is just this URL and this security token. And you would just go ahead and paste those in here in order to connect. This would come up automatically right after you install the application. However, if you are locally installed, you would just need to go ahead and click on SQL connection and then just put in the standard connection information for your database. Okay. Under remote connection, once you paste those 2 pieces of information, you should be able to go ahead and log in, and then this would just be the same password that you use to actually log into your account. All right, so now this is actually going to show the reports designer and how we can work with the reports themselves. So I'm going to give a quick overview for this control and then some of the options that we have, and then I'll actually show you how we can customize and some of the reports themselves. Okay, so you'll notice that we have these different report categories, and these different report categories are mostly based off of the item type. So we've got ones for all the different individual types of items here. Then we also have some for work logs and all items, as well as if you want to build like a project summary, which includes a bunch of other information. But all items is usually pretty good for that as well. So you'll notice that all of the options that we have here are actually showing up in blue, which means I can't edit and I can't delete them. So if I want to make any changes, I can't do it to the built-in reports. And we actually do that just so you don't accidentally delete something and not have any of the built-in reports to have access to, because a lot of them are very useful and generic, and we don't want you to be able to accidentally change something and not be able to go back to those original ones. But if you do want to actually go and modify any of the reports, you would actually just go ahead and take one of the reports, go ahead and click copy, and then you'll see that the report itself is now black, just meaning that you can go ahead and now actually double click to edit the report. Okay. So this report is actually the exact kind of structure of the list report that I printed out previously. I'm just going to kind of print it out and show you what it means, or kind of what it looks like. And this right here is the report that is generated. Same one if I go to Tools, Tools, Reports, then the actual user stories, and print out the user story report. And what we have here is, if you see here, we've got a bunch of different columns that we have and a couple pieces of date information. Okay, so if you want to actually go and modify the report, you can see where all of these columns actually live, and we can just swap out these elements just to change what information is actually included. So a couple quick things just about like the structure of the reports. Let me go ahead and pull this over just so we can still kind of see it. All reports have a detail section, and this is probably the most important section of the report, because this is what's actually printing out each kind of item as it goes through. Each row in the data set will go to the detail section and then allow you to print that out. Then, of course, we can include headers and headers for the page, or create different groupings and include that information as well. So if you want to do any calculations or summations, you can do those in any of the headers and footers and print those out. Okay. So a couple things about this, like it's actually active reports by Data Dynamics. So if you have any experience working with active reports, all this is old hat, but it kind of works very similar to Visual Studio. You'll see that I have all of my controls here. I've got all of my properties over here in the lower right window, and then just all of the fields. So this is kind of like the designer view. Okay. In addition just to having the little designer view where you can go and add and remove information, you can also go and control a lot of the elements by script. And this is really good where you're going to be doing any of your calculations or logic. So we just had one question about someone making a custom report and saying that, oh, I want to change the color based on priority. That's something you absolutely can do, but you would need to do it in the script and set up those rules, just saying, oh, if priority equals this, use this color. If something else works, use this color. And you can see that, we're even changing the color of some of the elements just to kind of change up the background here, just to alternate, if it's an odd row or even, whether it's the white or the gray. Okay. So along with the script, you can use this just to control any of the elements here. So what we can do is actually just swap out any information very easily if we need. But then if we want to really do anything programmatically, we would need to play around with it in the script. Okay. So something that I want to actually do is I can swap out this percentage field with actually like that cost field that I have, which is just a standard custom field. So right here, if you just select any of the elements, if you change the text property, just in the actual element over here, it'll go ahead and update the label for you. But then these sections are actually variables, so it's actually quite easy just to go and swap out any other information. So if I wanted to delete this one and then add another field, we can actually grab all of the fields just over on the right under the field section and then the bound section, and just drag and drop really any of the fields that we have. So you'll actually see all of the built-in fields that we have, but also the cool thing is that we even have custom fields already available to you, and these are custom fields for the customer, contact, or just for the item itself, and we can just go and quickly drag and drop them over here. So I can just drag my field over here, and now when I go and I run my report, it'll actually give me that custom field data. All right, so I know that some of you, I'm surprised I haven't seen a question yet right now, because I kind of did that expecting a little question. It's how do I know what custom fields are actually the custom fields that I had created in Axosoft? Well, the trick is that I just knew that previously from knowing what's going on. But actually, there's a really easy trick for you to know what the actual custom field values are. And the way to do that is if you go to the Axosoft application, if you remember, whenever creating notifications, you can really design your template, what information that's included in that notification that is used whenever you're emailing customers, what kind of information is there. And what we can do is add any variables, any other information, just say like, oh, if I want to add the title here, or if I want to add, who it's assigned to, I can add those all there. And those are basically just different placeholders. So if I want to insert like the custom field value for like quantity that I have, I'll just say, okay, go insert placeholder value. Now just go ahead and I'll look for that custom field, and I just called that one, it was my cost custom field. And there I can go ahead and see it's custom field 169. So it's kind of like a very easy kind of workaround for you. So now when I go back to the reports designer, I can just say, okay, I want to drag and drop custom field 169 there. So we also noticed that it's a lot bigger right here. So it's just showing a bigger font. I believe all the default fonts that we have are actually 8.25. So we can do that just to kind of make it similar to all the other ones, just so it kind of looks right. So now when I'm printing it out, it kind of blends together. Okay, so that's a really simple way just to go and swap out information. Just drag and drop any of the fields here right onto the details section. So the next couple things that we can do is just do a really simple calculation, because if I'm doing cost, if I've got cost of the item, quantity, I'll probably want that total as well. So that's something that we can do, and probably actually go and delete these fields. So I can go ahead and delete any of the fields that I have, but you want to just go ahead and make sure, because what actually happened is that if I delete those, specifically those date fields, you might get an error. Or really, if you're deleting anything from the design view, you also want to make sure that you also delete any references here. So like one of the things that we do have is that there's just like a little simple code snippet here that just references my due date and start date text boxes and prints to them. So now it's just kind of freaking out because those text boxes aren't there. So just you'd want to make sure that if you do delete any sections here from like our built-in reports, that you also go and just comment out or remove any of the actual references just to those sections. And it's just a little trick that we do just so that null date values show up as blank rather than as, I believe it's January 1st, 1899. All right, so now when I go and I print that out, I've stopped that error because I've deleted both the information from the design view as well as the script view. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of show you how to do a little calculation. You'll notice that I've got cost. Let me also just add the quantity here. All right, and then I'll add the total. Okay, so for the quantity, that's just a field that I can easily just go and drag and drop that here. Sorry, it's when I'm working in a remote desktop, it's a little bit more finicky. There we are. And I'll also add that to be 8.25. Okay, so now, of course, when I print it out, it's going to give me cost and quantity, but now I'm going to need the trick where I'm going to need to calculate the total of those. And I'm actually going to need to access the information from script and then being able to print it from a control. So first, kind of before I do that, I want to kind of point out some of the documentation that we do have available for you, and then just kind of show you how we can do it. Just access the information and then go ahead and print it out. So what we have here is just like our reporting page, and these also have links just to our documentation. But you can also just get to our documentation right from our support page as well. So if you click on support and then just go ahead and click on our full documentation, really everything that I'm covering will be available here in the reporting section. So if you want to get detailed information as to what I'm covering, you can find it out there. But really what I'm talking about now is just kind of scripting, how I get the information from script and then print it to a control. So one of the things that you would first want to do is just access the field. I want to access my fields, quantity and cost, so that I can print that, that value as a total. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. Let me just quickly add like a new variable called total. And then in my detail section, I'm actually going to go ahead and get that value. Okay. So my total is actually going to be the product of the two fields. And the way that I'm going to get those fields is that I just need to go ahead and just use this little string here. So it's going to say it's the report, which is kind of like this. I'm going to look at the fields, which we have here, and then just insert the name of the field, and I want the value. And that's really kind of what this tells me here. So it's just RPT, fields, and then the name of the field. So let me just go ahead and copy this portion right here. But for this one, it's actually not going to be the start date. It's going to be custom underscore 168 and 169, because those are my two custom fields. And then this actually all uses C#. So if you are familiar with that, you'll know that I'll have to do a quick convert. To int 32. And then I'm just going to do the product of that and custom field 169. All right. So let me just print this, make sure I didn't have any. All right, okay, great. So I'm doing the calculation, but it's not really doing anything until I print that information just to a text box. So what we would need to do is now just go back to the design view and make somewhere to actually print the data. So for that, I'm just going to go and make a new text box right here. And for the name, it's just called textbox1. So I'm going to need that when I'm actually referring back to that box so I can print to it. Okay. So the way that we print to controls is very similar. We just need to kind of designate, okay, it's in this section and it's this control, and then what's the value of it. Information for this is also included just in our scripting documentation, and it's just saying, okay, what type of control is it? Where is it? Like what section? It's probably going to be the detail section for this. What's the name of the control? And then print that out. So for this control, I've actually got an example where I'm printing data to it. So I'm just going to kind of steal this text of code. So it's basically just saying it's a text box. It's in the details section right over here. And I would just add the control name, which I think is textbox1. So now we just need to actually set what this is equal to, and I'll just say it's total, but I'm going to need to make it a string. Okay, so now it's just taking that value and going ahead and spitting it out just to my text box, and now when I print it out, I can just see that quick total. It's a little bit bigger because I forgot to change the size back to 8.25. Okay. All right. So that's just kind of like one example of what we can do right here. You can really just do any type of calculations, summations for groups, or really build any type of logic that you could typically do with your C# scripting right here. A couple other things that I want to kind of bring mention here is if you want to kind of personalize it, just add a picture. You can go ahead and, oops, sorry, I wanted to add a picture. If I want to add like a little company logo, I can go ahead and do that. It just kind of has a little bit more fun. So now it'll be in the header whenever I print that off. Customizing the reports, there's really tons that we can do. I mean, I could go on for another probably hour or so about all the different possibilities, but I want to kind of go ahead and just make sure that I point you guys in the right direction for a lot of the resources that we have, because we do have fairly good documentation. There's usually even better documentation on the actual active report site if you want to get really deep into a lot of the controls and options that you do have. So those are options that we have available just on our documentation page. Just go to support, click on documentation, and where I was pointing everything out was actually under the scripting page. But actually on the top of the scripting page, there's a link to active reports, which is built by Component One. And this has like the full library of all the methods that they have available just to go and pull out. So this actually goes and gives you really all the information that you would need. It is actually a little bit it is actually a little bit better of a resource than we actually have from ours, just because it's so in-depth and rather than replicating a lot of the information that they have. But really kind of like the big things that you want to just go ahead and make sure you have is just that you can go ahead and access all the fields, quickly find what custom field names that you have, and then just go ahead and you can use those to go and really generate any of the reports that we have. So a couple quick things about this. You'll notice that I did need to modify this using the reports designer, and it's only really used to modify the reports and create the reports. However, once I've built the report, let's say that I want to call this my cost report. So what I can do is just go ahead and save this report. So this is just the copy that I have, and let me just change this name so that it's no longer the features list shortcut. It'll actually just be called my cost report. So now when I go back to Axosoft, I might need to actually refresh the page in order for it to pull in the most recent information. So let me just do a quick page refresh. And now you can actually see under reporting, under my user stories, I've got my cost report that I just built, and it has my logo, has my totals and everything that we have there as well. Okay, so that's mostly it for some of the big options that we have with reporting. Let me go ahead and pop that out. Lastly, I want to mention that we do also, of course, have the Axosoft RESTful API, where you can go and actually just get all the data directly from the database, and it'll return just really whatever you request. So if you want to get down and dirty with all the information there, for more information on that, you can just go to developer.axosoft.com. And then lastly, one of my other kind of favorite things, which isn't really a report, but it actually solves a lot of questions, like when people come up to me and just say like, hey, can I schedule a report? I want to schedule something out. And what actually works kind of well for that is actually a filter matched notification, where you can just quickly say, okay, show me all the high priority items that were closed last week, and then you can actually run a notification off of that. I don't want to talk too much more about this because we've already kind of done like a whole webinar on notifications, and I kind of blocked that off. Especially if you've watched that webinar or went to that webinar, you'll notice that I mentioned that filter match alerts are one of my favorite options in Axosoft because it's really so flexible with what you can do. So if you do want something where you want kind of like a weekly report of all of your items, all you need to do is just create a quick filter, and then create a notification which uses that filter. And really for uses of that, I would definitely recommend checking out our notifications webinar, because we cover all that in a little bit more depth. All right. Great. So that's really all that I had. It's kind of a little bit denser in material towards the end, but I just wanted to show you really all of the options that we do have, because sometimes people will be asking us like, oh, well, I want this, that, and the other thing, and it's really just so much easier just to either export the data and then just manipulate it that way, or just to build a view and get like a printer-friendly view, or if there are ones where you want to build calculations that are actually easy to rerun, then it is actually sometimes a lot easier just to get in there with the report designer and make it do exactly what you want. So there's a lot of different ways to get the information out of your account. And I just wanted to kind of go over all those different methods. So definitely, thanks all for coming. We do already have a couple of questions that have come in, which I want to address. I do have a number of minutes just to go ahead and answer any questions that you do have.